welcome to the Building Your Brand podcast. I'm doing a bit of a different episode today where I am joined by two guests, which I have done before, but I've never done two guests in real life. So I'm joined by Lois and Hannah, who've both been guests on the podcast in this studio. So that's really fun. So we're all three of us going to have a chat together. Maybe before I share what we're going to chat about, you can do a little brief intro each, because obviously people will have heard you speak on the podcast before, probably.
Go on then, Hannah.
Oh, okay, I'll go first. So hi everyone, I'm Hannah. I run HI Communications. I help small business owners with their marketing, and I'm also the author of a book called The Best 90 Days Ever, where I teach 10-minute marketing to other businesses. And I love being on this podcast, so I'm really excited to chat to you guys today.
I am enjoying this format with the desk.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
What about you, Lo?
My name's Lois. Hello, everybody. It's lush to be back. I am a multidisciplinary artist, which basically just means I work in loads of different mediums. I'm also a designer. I offer design support, and I've recently just started running workshops, so I'm a workshop host.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we'll put a link to those in the show notes for sure.
And they're so good.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
We've both been.
Yeah, we love them.
Can I just say what it is we do with the workshops?
Definitely.
Yes.
Give them a good plug.
So I help people discover or rediscover their creativity and grow in their creative confidence.
Yeah.
Can you tell I practice that?
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about what it's like on the day.
Oh, now you've got me. Well, it's really free flowing. It's for anybody who's like super experienced in creativity but needs a bit of an outlet to do something for themselves, or really thinks that they're not creative at all. Like, I kind of throw this dare out there, let me prove to you that you are creative. So it's we get together and explore different mediums and just have loads of fun.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's so good.
You've both been.
We've both been.
And you do have loads of fun. It's very good.
I've had to work through my issues with creativity at it, because I think I go into it really wanting to have a particular outcome and then getting frustrated when it doesn't necessarily go that way. But having to learn a really important lesson, I think, for all of life, which is enjoying the process, not just this really polished final thing at the end. So it's been very good for me personally. Amazing. Okay, so today's episode is going to be a bit more like, I mean, the podcast's already very conversational, but it's going to be even more conversational. And I want you guys to be free to ask questions back. I want it to be, like a very sort of circular chat. Is that the right way to put it? I don't know. Everyone,
it is now.
It's not just me interviewing you guys, but what we're going to be talking about, which I think is going to be a really interesting topic, is the fear of success. I don't think I've heard people mention it in passing, but I've not really heard people talk about it that much. Lo, maybe you want to share why we decided to do it.
Yeah, because it came off the back of some stuff that we'd been talking about, but you guys were doing a YouTube lunchtime live.
Yeah.
And I think you'd asked Hannah a question about, what are some of the roadblocks to whatever it was you were talking about. And Hannah had replied saying the fear of getting it wrong. And I remember being like, within me, it's actually the fear of getting it right. And it was also around that time, I can't remember if it was before or after, but I'd actually had some coaching around my business where the topic had come up. And so we'd been chatting about it. So I was like, should we just have a more public chat, the three of us?
Yeah, I think it's going to be so good. I think it's going to be really interesting. So I did a little bit of research, and apparently the fear of success is called the Jonah Complex, which I didn't know. And it was coined that by Maslow, and it was because Jonah tried to avoid his divinely appointed task. So if you don't know the story,
Jonah off of the Bible?
Yeah, Jonah from the Bible. So if you don't know the story, Google Jonah from the Bible. But basically, God told him to do something, to go to this city, and he didn't want to do it, and he literally went in the other direction. So the idea is that he actively didn't do the thing that God had told him to do, which I guess ultimately was going to give the success.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I thought it was really interesting that it was called that. The other thing that I read, which I thought was interesting, is that I don't think most people realize that they have a fear of success. I think it's one of those things that you have to dig quite deep in to sort of recognize it. But I do think the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that I need to acknowledge it so that I can work through it, because otherwise it's just going to keep getting me stuck. So I'm excited to delve into it today. So maybe to start with, Hannah, how do you feel? When I say fear of success, what do you think? How do you feel about it?
Well, I feel like my first instinct is to say I don't have a fear of success. I'm sure that I do, and there are some things that might be deemed to be successful that I don't want. So it's not that I'm scared of them. I don't have a fear of them, but like, I don't know, being a celebrity, for example, I don't want that. So it's not that I'm scared of it or have a fear of it. I just don't want to work towards that. But yeah, I guess I just feel like I don't really have the fear, but I almost want to dig deeper into it because I know it is there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just wish that when I think about my goals and the things that I think would make me successful, I just want someone to tell me exactly what to do to get there, and I will do them. I'll do it. I'll be Jonah and I'll do the right
yeah, do what you're told.
But would I?
Yeah,
would I
that's
actually?
the question.
That's the question. Is that would I be worried?
I don't know if it's worried, but one of the things that I've realized is, like, you see different people online. I think they call it like a playbook, like sharing a playbook of like, if you do these things, then this is going to be your outcome. We actually went to a talk last week by Teresa Heath-Waring where she kind of talked about this, where she's like, I can lay it out for you and this is the outcome that you'll probably get. But if you don't want to do it, like, you're not going to do it. And then the quote at the end, it was something along the lines of, don't complain about success you didn't have because of the things you didn't do. Oof. I know, it's so good.
That's a good one.
So good. So yeah, Teresa Heath-Waring's talk was so good. But that got me thinking about it as well. Because, yeah, like, I could see someone online and, be like, okay, if I follow exactly what they want to do, or what they say I should do, but so often I just don't want to do the thing that they say. And I think I've had to accept, like, I've had to make an intentional decision. Like, actually, I want to do it my way more than I want the success at the end. And I think that's often the question. It's like, how much do you want the thing that's at the end of this path of activities? And are you willing to maybe do things in a way that you don't want to do to get there? And I think for some people they are. Like, some people the goal is so strong and such a strong pull that they're literally willing to do anything to get there. And I don't feel like that I am willing to do anything to get there. And maybe it's because that's not the right success for me, because I think this is the other factor of the conversation, right, is what I think is successful might be different from what you think is successful. So I do think there's that component to it. Like, what does success look like for us?
Which I think is actually massive, because it's like, that is the much broader context. Like, you have to get clear on your goals. And we've talked about this before, where, like, I think for me, feeling where I'm at in my life stage, I can often feel like, oh, I'm behind and I should be where I should be further along. But that's usually based on comparison of, like, looking around at the world. And of course, we've got access, especially through social media. Like, we've got heaps of access to how people are doing things and what success looks like for them. But I guess tied in with the fear of success, kind of like side by side, is fear of, like, what if I niche down into the wrong thing? Because actually I love doing loads of different things. So a step back for me, even before looking at, like, what am I afraid of, is like, what is it that I actually want? And in the coaching session, something that came up that was really cool as we, like, worked through it was, I imagined myself, like, in this successful place. Like, what part of the success of what I'm currently doing am I afraid of? One of those things is that maybe I'll be overwhelmed. Like, maybe I don't have enough structure in place right now or capacity to deal with what success in this area could look like. And it was, what if I've chosen the wrong thing? Like, what if I've poured my time
in something completely wrong?
Yes, that I didn't want to do, or, and it was really cool, because in the coaching session, I imagined myself in that place and I was like, oh, I could just change my mind if it's the wrong decision. And in reality, if I've grown to a successful place, actually I've enlarged my capacity to get to, I can be in control of what success looks like for me, and also what my capacity is and what my boundaries are within that space. So I think it was hugely to do with separating the expectation of what success looks like, kind of like that idea of what the world tells me success is. And I mean, we could even dive into, like, the patriarchy here, because, it's like,
who's
ideally,
what success looks like?
So yeah, so that's kind of like where I landed in terms of like, you need to get clear on your goals, which is why I love being part of Hannah's Best 90 Days, because that
Nice
helps.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, because I was having a conversation with Tom, my husband, last night on the dog walk about this, and I was thinking about the moments in my life where I felt the most successful. And actually, it wasn't ever about the thing, it was about the feeling that it gave me.
Yes.
So, like, this is going to just sound like I'm bragging now. So, my big successes are, but my two big ones are when I bought my first house, and I was on my own, and I'd just moved to Wales, I was 24, and it was a really big thing. And I felt like such a huge success. I mean, it was like a tiny little house, but it was amazing. And it wasn't even about the house, it was about the security and the safety that gave me. I just felt like I've got my own place now, I've got that security. That felt really successful to me. And then the second thing, like my biggest goal was to write a book. And it's not even about the book. Like, the book is great, but it's about the security. Like, I will always have that book now. If I need to make more money in my business, I can leverage the book, for example. It's about what that gave me. And I think if you can really pinpoint the feeling that you want to have, it almost doesn't matter what you're going to be doing, because you can chop and change. I guess for yours, it's probably going to be something around creativity. So whatever you're doing, as long as you get that creative feeling, that could be success for you, and you can chop and change as much as you like.
So
but
good.
I think the other issue as well isn't it, that like you might have this idea in your head of what success looks like, and then you get there, and then what? Do you know what I mean? So it's not it. I don't think it's ever like this finishing line. It's never like you get to this point and then that is it. You've ticked off success and you've done that for life, and you just like carry on at that level. Like, as humans, we're always like moving on to the next thing. And I think this is the thing that is a little bit sad about it, is that we get to the big goal, that we thought we had, and then we adapt to that so fast. So I heard someone say that we adapt really fast to positive things and to negative things. So like, if something hard's happening in our life, we adapt really quickly to that as well, and that becomes our new normal, which is kind of a good thing, in terms of like human resilience and all that sort of thing. Not a good thing if it's something really awful, but you know what I mean. Like, you can adapt to a difficult situation, but it's the same the other way. Like, something positive happens, we adapt to that so fast that then we move on to the next thing. And I think that is almost something that we like need to acknowledge. And I think that's where your point about it's the feeling, because I think that's why the actual journey of getting there is so important. Like, if you're not enjoying the journey of getting there, then the moment where you achieve the success is going to be so fleeting that it was like, what was the point of being miserable all of that time to get to this one little point that was like amazing, but then we got over it so quickly, and then it's like, what next? And I do think people have that, don't they, where they achieve something and they have this like massive high, maybe it's like run a marathon, whatever like the goal was, they do this amazing thing, and then they have this massive low afterwards, because then it's kind of like, well, what am I working towards now? I don't know why I've run a marathon.
I've also done that.
She's done it all, folks.
Isn't it called like the hedonic treadmill?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's how you say the word hedonic.
Yeah,
is that how you say it?
Or is it hedonic?
Hedonic.
Oh, who knows?
But it is that treadmill. Someone tell me. But it is that treadmill of life that you are just constantly on it,
like
and it's the next thing.
So I think if you can enjoy the process of getting to the goals, then your life is going to feel so much more fulfilling, because it's not just about those little spikes that happen actually quite rarely.
I think as well, it's not, because this reminds me of something you said recently, Hannah, but like, it's not only about enjoying the process. I think it's about finding value in the process as well. Because I remember I think it's one of the YouTube live talks maybe, where you were like, unpopular opinion, but I think sometimes we're too easy on ourselves.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me too, because I'm trying to find this balance between, I have to push myself hard enough to get to that place, and go easy on myself and always be like, oh, there's lots of, other circumstances around me trying to build this business, and building the business isn't the only thing going on in my life that's important. And so I have to kind of have grace for myself in that environment, but I also have to find that balance between like, oh, actually, no, I'm being too easy on myself. I can't go for another walk, like, for inspiration.
But I think the difference is, and I think this is where so often the words we use confuse us, because I think actually there's a difference between pushing yourself and being mean to yourself.
Oh, good.
And so I think, like, don't be mean to yourself and like beat yourself up about it in an almost like bullying way, but yeah, like push yourself, like know that you can do a bit more, and that you, so like I have recently started doing personal training, and it's so interesting to me because the sessions I do with her, she really pushes me, and she's like, I know you can do 2 more reps, like do the reps. And I'm like, okay. Whereas with me, I'm like, oh no, I'm like, I give up. I have been pushing myself, but not as much as she would push me. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah, like this idea, and like the difference between, well, what does it look like to push yourself and not break yourself, but like not like be horrible to yourself. I think there's like a difference there. Like the grace is important.
Yeah.
Then is it rather than a fear of success with that, or just a fear of hard work?
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
a fear that this is going to be uncomfortable for a while, and I'm not going to want to do
Yes.
this. And I was saying this to you earlier about I think that a lot of people in the best 90 days ever have this, because I'm literally telling you it's going to take you 10 minutes. It's so simple. Like, you cannot talk yourself out of it. And they do talk themselves out of it because
they think it's going to be hard.
They think it's going to be hard, or they will realise it's easy and then be like, oh my goodness, this whole time it could have been so easy. And I've been making it really difficult. And like, that's a really difficult thing to think to yourself as well, because I think we're so brainwashed into thinking that things need to be hard and challenging, whereas they can be easy. And it's about recognising when you need to put the hard work in, when you need to let the things be easy and go for a nice creative walk, and when you actually need to knuckle down, because this is my goal, this is what I want to achieve, and I want to get there. Whatever that hard path is in front of me, I'm going to do the work and I'm going to get to that point. So
I do think a capacity for discomfort is so important. Like, that's what I've been learning. Like, if I want to get anywhere in my business, I have to get used to being uncomfortable, because the thing that I want, I haven't done yet. So it's going to feel uncomfortable to do it the first time. And then it'll get easier because I've done it once. So I know I can do it. Like I've proved to myself that I can do that thing. And then the next time it's going to feel less uncomfortable because I've done it the first time. That leads nicely onto, what do you think fear of success actually looks like for people, or for you? You go first, Lo.
Put you on the spot.
We can cut out a long pause if you need time to think about it.
Like, as in, lead me a bit more.
Okay, well, so when I was thinking about it, I made a list of. I'll start. Okay, I'll start. On. Yeah, like
do you want me to ask you the question?
Yeah. I think for me, so a big value for me is like time with my kids, and I've built my business around that. And I think a fear for me is if my business gets too successful and I almost like lose control of that, because obviously I'm with you, like I can always choose what I want it to be like, but in the moment I think often we get swept up in it. And so I'm like, if it gets too successful, is that going to take me away from my kids and spending time with them? I think another big one for me is if I get to a certain, it's like fear of what people think about me, and that's like something that I'm still working through. I think social media adds a whole like new dynamic into that we're having to navigate. And part of me is like, if I get really successful, people aren't going to like me, because that often is what happens, right? People get really successful and then we're all like, and then like the people who aren't there yet get a bit resentful or a bit jealous, and then they convince themselves that that person's the problem and not them. And I like do have this fear of like people resenting me or not liking me because maybe I've done something that they wanted to do. So that's like another factor. So things like that, I think, like what does it actually mean if you get that's successful, or what, because it's different, right? And I think so this probably isn't one for you because I know that you love change, but like a fear of things changing, I think, is what for some people, you know, like it's some, say success is over, you know, there in front of you, like it's something that you haven't that is something you haven't experienced yet, so it's gonna be different, it's gonna feel different, it's gonna have an impact on your life. Yeah, I think those are some
and
of
I
them.
would say mine are probably really similar to that. And one I would add in really is also fear of letting people down. I think I probably have equated success with being busy, which is also probably something else I need to like unpack a little bit. Yeah. But like, if I become successful in this thing, it's kind of equated with, it's probably actually equated with, oh, it means that I've gone completely out on my own, and I'm, because part of my business setup, which I mean I'm kind of talking about two things at the same time here, but part of my business setup is that I do design support work, which really fulfills something within me because I love to help people. And there's probably this thing in my mind that is like, if I'm successful, that means that I'm a full-time artist and I'm just selling my work everywhere. And it's like, again, it goes back down to like, what is the actual goal? What does success feel like? What does it look like? And so if I'm successful in that area, then I'm letting down the people that I'm currently doing support for. And, or, I mean, Liz being one of them, but we've talked about this. Yeah.
She'll be upset.
Yeah. And or then the friends in my life, like I'm assuming I'm going to be busy, and so then I'll be less available.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But because this did come up in my coaching session, I did kind of have a moment to really think about like, well, okay, can I reframe what success is, and actually can success for me look like both of those things? And I think it can. I think it can look like painting more. You know, I mean, the reality of my life currently is that I've decided to do this workshop. I'm in my workshop era. And painting has been the one thing that's actually, ironically, has suffered because of that, because I've needed in this season to spend more time on getting the workshops together. And so I actually haven't painted for about 5 months properly, where I've really gotten into the zone. So, but I haven't thrown that out the window. That's something that's kind of like on my list of like, in this process of, I'm still just gathering my life together and knowing that it's going to change, it's going to look different through the different seasons, as well as like as my son gets older and, you know, the things that he needs and the rhythm. I'm still adjusting to the rhythm of school life. Like, you know, I didn't live by the academic calendar for so long. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, I've got 6 weeks and then it's all going to change again. You know, so that's another thing to throw in there. I've kind of lost what the question I'm answering, but
no, I think all of those are really, really interesting and very, very relatable. I do think that it's okay. You made a point earlier about worrying about going down the wrong path. Like, I do like the idea of having different things in your life and you push on this one for a bit and this one takes a back seat. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands, because if anyone's listening, they're not going to be able to see. But like, if you focus on one area a bit more, another area takes a back seat. But almost that's like you testing the waters, gathering more information to work out which area you eventually want to go all in on. And one of the guests I had on the podcast was Rich Webster, and I remember one of him actually talking about this exact thing of like people worrying they're going to go too far down one path. And I think I'll try and find exactly how he worded it, but I think his thing was that he's constantly adjusting, you know, like constantly iterating. So he's sort of assessing everything as he goes, not once he's reached the destination. He's course correcting as he goes. And I was like, okay, yes. Like, I think we get in we make everything very sort of like binary, don't we, in our heads, you know, like it's this or that. We can go down this path or that path. And I think it's much more of a sort of like windy path, and we can like course correct as we go. And then that takes away some of the fear, you know, like of, if you're always checking in on yourself of, are you going in the wrong direction?
Yes, good.
One of the other things, I thought of so many things when you were talking. I should have brought a pen and paper to make notes. But basically, I do think, so one of the things that I have thought about a lot is, like, if you think about a CEO of a company, right? They get paid more than everybody else in the company. And the reason for that is the level of stress that they have to deal with is much higher. And I do think, for me, I don't want to be the CEO of a massive company because I don't want to live my life dealing with that level of stress. Like, yes, it'll look successful to the world, and yes, I'll probably earn more money than I've ever earned, but I'll be really stressed. And so actually,
why do you associate that with stress? I know lots of CEOs that aren't stressed.
well,
Yeah,
interesting.
This is good.
Well,
This
that,
is good.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is good.
Because for what you both just said, you associate success with being busy.
Yeah.
I associate success with having free time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so successful that I can take a step back from my business. I don't associate
I
a
need this
CEO
reframe.
Yeah.
with being
It's like
stressed.
counselling. Okay. Well,
But that's
really
is that
good.
what people want you to think? Like, is that
yeah,
is
maybe.
that what
And
it's designed
maybe
to be
that's
to
how.
stop everyone going for the CEO role?
Yeah, maybe. And maybe, I guess the portrayals I've seen of, or the stories I've seen of like people at that level is, like that the buck stops with them. And also there's loads of people whose livelihood, like depend on them running the company effectively. So I guess it's that pressure that I'm afraid of. Like I am totally fine with, well, not totally fine. I'm sure I got stressed about it as well. But like if it's just me, like I'm the only one that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
The thought of being responsible for that many people, their livelihoods, like how they feed their families, like that feels stressful to me. And maybe I do think people have got different capacities for
Yeah.
those sort of decision making. And so, I don't think it's going to be the right fit for everyone to be a CEO. Some people are leaders, some people aren't. Some people are like, want to be told what to do. But yeah, I think you're right. And I think you make a really good point because I do think we have ideas in our head of what something looks like. Like so another, okay, I've just thought of another fear of success is like the financial implication. So like, so for me, it's the thought of like how complex, if you have a big business, or not even if you have a big business, if you make a lot of money, the implications in terms of tax overwhelms me, like having to know that. So I'm almost like, I don't want my business to get so big that the money side of it feels complicated to me. And obviously I've got an accountant, but I still feel like it would be a lot more complicated. So then that makes me stay small.
Based on what?
But again, based on probably some artificial story that I'm telling myself. And this is what I need to unpick. And I do think this is just so prevalent in all of my life, is like these stories that I tell myself that are not necessarily true. And you'll probably always be able to find one example to uphold this story that I'm telling. But like you say, like not. But that's why I do think representation is important, right? Because you've got to see it. I just need to go out and find non-stress CEOs who are making loads of money and find that really easy.
Also, you're already a CEO.
Well, yeah, true.
Like, you are a
yeah,
CEO, and you are already managing your money.
Yeah.
You have an accountant. You've been running a business for this
true.
time. Like, it would just be on a different scale. It doesn't necessarily mean the stress has to go up.
Yeah.
But
and it's not going to happen overnight. This is your point. Like, you don't go from this point to this point tomorrow.
No.
Like your capacity would grow. I'd get used to all of these
unless you go viral on social media, and then all of a sudden you can't like that. I think that is also part of the story in my head that I've received, is like, but it kind of goes back to that celebrity thing you were saying, like, oh, I don't actually want that. I don't want to be a celebrity. And it's like, I don't want to go viral on TikTok for a product that I'm selling, because I might not be able to, I mean, I'm not even on TikTok other than to just scroll and watch. But like, like those stories popped up, and then all of a sudden I was kind of afraid of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to handle it if I'm an overnight sensation. So I don't want that. But it kind of lodged a story in my head of like, avoid.
But that's about the setup. That is about being prepared in your business for any success that might come. Because if you are already saying, oh, no, I don't want that, I'm not ready for that. Like, what about if you just had an extra 5 orders? Or, you know, are you ready for that? You know, an extra 10 orders. Are you ready for that? Like, I think it is about from the beginning.
No,
or...
Hannah, I'm not ready for those things.
It's about setting it up at every stage so that you
good.
can handle that success. And then if you happen to go viral, and also remember that going viral does not always need to sales.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
I think I'm a
you
proof
can go viral and people don't buy your stuff. Like, I think it is about being set up for any success. And it's almost thinking like, okay, so if I want to go and speak on stages, or I want to be invited onto podcasts, or I want more sales for my business, I want loads of workshop people to sign up. Am I preparing myself for that? Could I actually handle that if that happened today? And I think it's about, especially like the speaking one, you're not going to get invited onto a stage if you're not practicing, if you're not speaking. Like, that's why. So not, I was going to say that's why I'm here today. It's not, but like, I'm always practicing. Yeah.
Rude.
I'm always speaking because I don't want to lose it as a skill. I want to always feel ready for when these opportunities come.
Wasn't this your goal, Hannah, to be back on my podcast?
This is my goal. I'm going to finish my business after this. I'm done. Tick.
Success.
Yes. I think my one main fear of success is the maintaining of it. So I love the idea, and I know you mentioned Teresa earlier about her talk, and she was talking about these huge launches, and you know they're earning like millions of dollars.
Wow.
They're also spending millions of dollars to get there.
It's not all profit.
And I worry that if I did have a launch, you know, even half of that scale, what about if the next launch isn't of that scale? I think it's the maintaining the success that I worry about. And I do worry about the lifestyle creep that would come with that success, and I then have to maintain it for my lifestyle as well. So that's the thing that I kind of worry about. But I guess
I haven't even thought of
the
that. Now I've got a whole load of new fears.
Sorry.
No, that's a really good point.
It's the setting it up, though, isn't it? Like, again, and that is why I'm almost grateful that I've been doing this business for 10 years now. This is a slow and steady thing. I'm on like 5,000 followers on Instagram, but I have a great business that I'm really proud of, and that it's growing at a manageable rate for me. So, you know, even if I did go viral now, then, you know, maybe I'd be able to handle that. But it's not just been something that was like thrown upon me and I had to scrabble around. It's slow and steady, and like that's why I think I'm almost not that worried about success now, because I think I'd be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got enough experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think that is a good point though, and I guess it comes back to our point of like, success is not this like one thing. You know, like it's a movable thing. Once, say you had that amazing launch, you know, like success is then going to look different from that. Like we're always adjusting what our version of success looks like, aren't we? And you know, like before I had kids, my version of success looked really different. And I think, you know, like I do think that we get really conditioned though by all the people around us as to what success looks like.
Yeah.
And I think, like, so for example, in my situation, when I was at university, what success looked like to everybody on my course was to work for a really famous designer and then to set up their own agency. And I think I always felt like an outsider because that was never what my version of success was. What I need to unpick is it because I didn't think I could do it? And so I adjusted my version of success to something that felt more manageable. Or is it that genuinely like that wasn't what I wanted to do? And I think that's what I have to keep coming back. I have to keep asking myself. I have to keep challenging myself. Like, is the reason I'm making this my version of success because that's actually true? Or is it because I don't think I can achieve what other people think success looks like? Looking back on the people that have followed that path of success, I feel very glad that that is not what I pursued because I think it was horrible.
Yeah, well, and you were able to see that it didn't align with like who you are and what your core values are and all that stuff. Yeah.
But I do think that one of the things I now have to work through is how to feel successful when it's my version of success and not other people's version of success. Do you know what I mean? Because I think often we want other people to think we're successful just as much as we want to feel successful ourselves.
And I do think it's a really powerful thing to be acknowledging like what the stories are in our heads, and then taking time to like unpick it and unpack it, and then see, okay, I mean, and this is kind of why not only coaching is really helpful, but also doing business in community, because we do get to actually have conversations like this where it's like, oh, this, I've just realized this is what I believe in my head, and now it's come out of my mouth. I don't think that's the direction I want to be going in, or I don't want to continue to be afraid of success, you know?
Yeah.
So taking the time to kind of like unpick some, like, well, all of them eventually, but like those stories in our heads, I think is a really powerful thing to do, because then you can reframe and go, okay, what is it that I actually get clear on your goals? What is it that I actually want to do? Who actually am I? And just like reaffirm, I suppose, and reshift that story. I've kind of lost my train of thought, but
it was a great thought.
I had a conversation once with a friend about women having it all, and can women have it all? And it was really interesting. And one of the things that I kind of said to her was, everyone's all is different. So there are so many things at play with women having it all. I'm not like going to start going into that, but I do think it's interesting to think about, our all being different. I don't have children. I don't necessarily want children. So my all would be different to someone else's. So that also means that my success would look different to other people's as well. And I think that's kind of what you were saying about, it looks different, and it's about figuring out what that does look like for you.
And I think that's where comparison like really undoes us.
Yeah.
Because if I'm comparing my life and my version of success, or my version of having it all, to yours, they're going to look really different, because we just have really different life circumstances. And so it's like not a good marker. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Do you both feel like having children has impacted your fear of success or your versions of success? Because I know I was saying this to you the other day about, from the outside, it almost looks like you have someone else to consider. So you have the impact of your success on your children. I don't have that. But, say you were to become famous and celebrities, that is going to have an impact on your children. If you, I'm trying to think of like other successful things, but if you
Well, it's
moved
what
them,
I said.
something like
What I
that.
said at the beginning. Like if, well, this comes back to unpicking the stories of if you're successful, it takes up loads of time. But that has been a fear for me. Like if my business became so successful, I had to put even more time into it. Would that take away like time from my kids and me not being able to be there with them as much? But yeah, I think it would. I think that is a factor, like how it would impact. And interestingly, so I made like a list of different people's reasons for like fearing success. And one of them, which I think is really interesting, is change in relationships. So like how it changes your closest relationships. And I can totally see how that would play out. Like I think as humans, we like to put people in boxes, right? Because then we like understand them. We know where they sit. Like we have this kind of like structure. We know where they sit in the structure. And we don't like it if that gets rocked. Like we don't like it if something changes for someone else in our life, because then we have to like restructure how we perceive everybody. And I've definitely like like when I was younger, for example, it'd be like when one of your friends gets married, like you're super happy for them, but then everything has to like reorder slightly because now they're in like a different, and especially like for me at the time, like not being married was like a big deal. And so then I had to sort of like process my feeling about that and restructure like how I thought of that person. So I think it happens in all different facets of life. I think I was this is a little bit off topic, but I was actually watching someone on social media who had lost a lot of weight, and she was talking about how that had impacted how people interact with her, because people had put her in a particular box and now they were having to like reorganize and put her in a different box. And I just think it's like so fascinating how we do that. And so I can totally see how it would change your relationship with people if you had a level of success that makes them feel uncomfortable or
a level of
confuses
success
them.
that they perceived as successful, that they were like couldn't quite handle or were jealous of, or they thought that it had changed like who you were, or makes you less accessible to them, or because again it comes back down to what even is success.
So to flip it around the other way, one of the interesting things that I've had to do is when I see someone, often it's on social media, right? Maybe they've ended up with loads of followers. They're talking about, like, say it's a designer, like talking about how many clients they've got, whatever my versions of success are. And I look at that. And as they get more successful, I start to like them less. And what I've had to question myself is it because they've become obnoxious? Or is it that I'm jealous?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I have to really dig deep and be like, am I frustrated about this person and what's happening to them because it's something that I want? Or has it changed them in a way that actually, like, they're not really my sort of person, and that's fine, and I just, don't necessarily like pursue a friendship or relationship with them, and that's okay. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard
I
question.
think another kind of thing to, I guess, throw into the ring in terms of like how we unpack some of these stories and what we do with them and how we move forward is actually we also need to look at the judgments that we make towards other people, and kind of, I think, realize that, I've made a judgment kind of similar to the story I'm telling myself is, but a judgment would be more kind of hard-lined, I guess, like in the sense of like, oh, they're this, they've they're doing this, so therefore they're this kind of person, and I don't like that, really. When, hopefully everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. People are, dealing with all sorts of journeys and parts to their story going on behind the scenes that we aren't necessarily privy to all of the time. And all of us are just trying the best. None of us are going to get it right. None of us are going to. So I think like what I'm trying to say is we also need to have a little bit of a self-reflect around, like, so say, for example, let's say one of the fears is around money, is like, if I earn a lot of money and I'm going to become this type of person, actually underpinning that is probably a judgment around people who have a lot of money. And so that's the thing that's stopping you from that, contributes to the fear of success. It's like, actually, I need to unpick that and, stop judging.
Yes, we need to unpick our judgments of other people.
Yeah.
Because we almost like don't want that thing because we think it'll make us that sort of person that we've made a judgment about.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's so messy.
And on the other hand, the jealousy of it is a good thing because it shows you what you want.
Yeah.
If
That
you're
is
jealous
good,
of someone,
yeah.
that means that you're getting closer to what success potentially looks like for you. I mean, I think you do have to think, am I jealous because that person has it and I don't? Or am I jealous because I want it?
Yeah.
And as well for me,
Yeah.
is it, there's two different things there. Sometimes you can be jealous and you still don't want the thing. You just don't want them to have it. But like, I think having a look at that jealousy and thinking, okay, I'm now getting even clearer on what success looks like for me. I can move towards that.
Yeah.
I think also, just to talk on what you were saying, or what both of you were saying, is that we don't have to like everyone online as well.
Totally.
There are some people who just aren't for us, and that's fine.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think my experience as well has been like when there's been someone that I've looked at online and maybe been jealous of, and then there's a few instances where this has happened where I've had the opportunity to get to know them, and then you get to know them and you realize actually they're just muddling their way through, like things are going wrong. They're usually struggling with the exact, maybe on a slightly bigger scale, but the exact same issues that I'm struggling with. Like they're just normal people. And I think we just build up these stories, don't we, that are just artificial about, there's that classic like context collapse online where it's like you're seeing this small sliver of someone, you're filling in the gaps and painting a whole inaccurate picture, and then you get to know them and you realize, oh, actually they're just really normal and they're just navigating this wild thing, this wild business journey that they're on. They're just at a different stage of it.
That was like me and you.
And then you met me and was like, she's a shambles.
Well, no. But what it did show me is that the things you were doing, I could do too. I remember saying to Tom, Liz's got a podcast now. Like, what a podcast? That's amazing. Like, that felt so out of the realm of possibility for me to have a podcast. And then actually I was like, oh, I could just set up my own podcast. Yeah, like it wasn't.
That's good.
It
and then
didn't
that's
feel
how we became friends.
Yeah, then I got into my podcast.
And now you're on my podcast. I mean, for the like 100th time. Yeah, that is so true. I think that it comes back to that thing of like, actually it is helpful to see what's possible. You know, like you almost like need to see someone else do it and be like, oh yeah, I could totally do that. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, last sort of question-ish. I'm not saying that you're going to have like a neat answer to this, but having had this conversation, like how do you think you're going to go forward and work on it? You know, like if we've acknowledged that fear of success is an issue, more or less for some people, like what do you think you're going to go away and do, I guess, to try and work through that? Not just off the back of this conversation, off like the whole sort of idea.
I'm just going to spend my time hassling you.
I know. I knew that was going to happen.
No, I think I'm going to have a little think about where my fear of success actually is and what is stopping me from doing some of the things that I do probably know would move my business forward, but I'm not doing. Because there's always stuff, like even as you get to different levels of business, there's always stuff you know would be helpful that you're avoiding.
Yeah.
And what's that phrase where it's like, is it like windier at the top or something?
Oh,
Didn't we have this last time? But you know, as you get to the top, there's just you and there's wind. Of the mountain. So yeah, I definitely want to unpick that. I want to like just dig a little bit deeper into it, because if I had no fear of success, then would I not be more successful? And I'm not saying I'm not successful. I'm not saying like, but that's just a question that's like coming up for me. Like, is there things that I'm not doing that would get me to the next level of success, which I do want and I do think about and like visualize and things. So what am I not doing? I think that's something I really want to unpack. And also, I'd love to talk to other people about this as well, because I think this will really help with what I'm teaching. Because if it's not the actual method that I'm teaching, which is stop like getting in the way of people, is it something else? Is it this underlying belief, this fear of success? And can we do something around that as well? Like all of this stuff together, I think helps you have a good business, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, definitely. I think this would be such a good workshop in the best 90 days, wouldn't it? You know, like, or just in any sort of membership or any sort of business sphere, you know, like actually just encouraging people to think about it. Yeah, so interesting. What about you?
Well, I think a major takeaway for me is like, what does it feel like? So just what does success feel like? What am I looking? I mean, I'm all about how I feel in any given circumstance. Definitely lead with my feelings. And so, yeah, I think that's a really important one for me to kind of go back and think, like, what do I want my day to day to look like? Like, what's my ideal setup of my week, and how am I feeling, and kind of allow that to be something that underpins some of the decisions, or maybe all of the decisions, but definitely some of the decisions in my business moving forward. Don't worry, I'm not giving up design support anytime soon.
Okay, interestingly, hearing this is so funny, isn't it? How other people speaking, which is why I love chatting to people, triggers things for you to think about. Because hearing you say that, I just imagined like how I would visualize what my life would look like if it felt successful. And now I've unlocked a new fear, which is if I dream too big and I can't reach it. So like actually the fear of success for me is I can't get there. You know, like I've got this idea of what success and like the fear is the disappointment of not getting there. Okay, I mean we're gonna have to wrap this up eventually, but I'm gonna keep thinking. But I think this back to like both of your point, like back to Hannah's point of what she's gonna do. Like I feel like I need to go away. Like this conversation has sparked so many thoughts for me, which is what I was hoping that it would do. Well, now I can go away and actually unpick, okay, here are the list of what I perceive my fears of success to be. Like, what do I need to do to work through them? And I think and working out, you know, like which are the ones, I think it comes back to intentionality. Someone said that to me the other day. I can't remember. I was listening to an episode and it was like a podcast episode, and it was like, the most important thing is intentionality. So actually, I can choose to make decisions that mean I won't get to a particular level of success, but there needs to be intention behind there needs to be like a really good solid reason why, because I'm choosing something else rather than that's more important to me. So I think it's like going through all of those things and then being like, am I making this decision out of intentionality, or am I making this decision out of fear? And
good.
I think part of it is just like being really brutally honest with yourself, which is why I do think you need other people to talk to about this who were willing to challenge you. Because like, you saying to me, why do you think it has to be hard? Like, that's a challenge to me.
Yeah.
And now I have to go away and I have to unpick that. It helps to have
I think as well, being able to visualize the other side of it as well.
Yes.
So like what you were saying about the being busy, being successful equals being busy. If that's not your dream vision for your week, then it's got to look different. Like you've got to figure out something else then.
Yeah.
So does that mean that to be successful you're going to have to make your week busier?
Yeah.
Or does it mean that I'm going to have to shift my version of success, which includes having free time and being able to do art and workshops and spend time with my friends and all of that other stuff and do design work? Because I don't think it's impossible for you to do design work and art and workshops.
Yeah.
It's just like you say, it's the different seasons of your life. It's figuring out how you can actually do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's like challenging everything. I love that phrase where it's like you take your thoughts to court.
Yeah, that's good.
And you think, is this actually true? Is there evidence behind this? Is there evidence against this? Are there CEOs that aren't stressed? Yes, absolutely. Like there are loads of CEOs that aren't stressed. We don't have to buy into this idea that being successful is stressful, is tiring, is like time consuming. I know that's a privileged thing to say, but I think it is about shifting what that version means. It just means that we're not going for the high stress CEO roles because there are other things available.
That's good.
Yeah. Love it. Amazing. Thank you so much. I honestly feel so inspired. I feel like I need to go and lie in a dark room and ponder my life. But yeah, I really appreciate that you're both like really open and vulnerable and shared your thoughts on it. And I hope like this is less of a sort of educational podcast and more of a like, here, listen in on a conversation we had. And I hope in the same way that for people listening, this is like got your cogs whirring and got you thinking about maybe where this is showing up for you. And you don't have to go and discuss it publicly on a podcast. But I would definitely recommend like finding a friend that you trust and challenging each other on these sort of things. So yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.